Okay, this is white gas I have in this cylinder. This is a Primus OmniFuel stove. It may be an older version, but it's still an OmniFuel. It has its flame plate on. And if I wanted to start the stove up in the traditional manner with the flame plate, using white gas as my priming fuel, then I open this valve for 2 seconds. Oh, wait. Sorry. I have to open this one first. There we go. Open this one for 2 seconds. 1, 2. That should be enough. And then, the fuel has all gone down into the pad. I light that off. And the stove is now preheating. Now, that means it's making this fuel that's burning is making this burner hot. If the burner's not hot, it can't vaporize the liquid fuel into a gas. So what we're doing here is we're trying to get the burner hot so that the bottom of the burner where all the fuel is coming in here is good and hot and will cause the fuel to vaporize. All right, let's see if we're there yet. Yep. Whoop. If it isn't quite ready to go, then just keep the flame level down and slowly bring it up. You start getting yellow, just crank it down a little bit, let it warm up. It's not going to work unless it's hot. Okay, slowly opening the valve. Let them warm up a little bit more. And there we go. Now we're open and running full blast. Everything working great. Remember, the important thing to remember here is that the bell must be hot, which heats up all the stuff down in the bottom of the bell. And even this tube here, where the fuel is coming in, all that has to be hot to vaporize fuel. Unvaporized fuel will burn big yellow, icky flames. Vaporized fuel is actually a gas. It's burning as a gas, and that's what you need to have coming out of the jet. It needs to be a gas, not liquid fuel. So that's how you start up the stove with traditional method. Okay, so now I've cooled this stove off, and I'm going to demonstrate how to light it with an OmniDawg cap using traditional gas preheating or fuel preheating. Open up the valve. Maybe I do. Whoops. Open up the valve for about 2 seconds. Maybe 3. Okay, I see some fuel dripping in the bottom, and I light the fuel. Now, the fuel is not only... Part of the reason I did a little bit extra there, not just 2 seconds, but 3 seconds, is because there's a lot of metal in this cap. So, you have to get the cap hot as well as all that other stuff. So, use a little bit more fuel when you're preheating with the fuel. Now, the important thing to do with any silent stove or any silent cap is to always make sure that the flame of the preheat has gone out completely before you light it, because you don't want flame inside the cap. You only want flame on the outside coming through the holes. Having flame inside the cap, all that flame trapped inside there, can actually heat up the cap to the extent where you can melt the cap. I mean, it makes like a little blast furnace inside. It can actually melt the cap, and that's whether it's a hand-built cap, an F-series cap, any kind of cap. The old traditional kind of caps that have been sold for the last 110 years, all those will melt if you let that flame get inside the cap. All right, well, the flame is out. So now I open up the valve, have a flame handy, and now I've lit the cap. Start it out slow, just like before. Let it heat up that burner bell. By heating up the burner bell, we're transmitting the heat to the base of the stove. The base of the stove gets hot. The fuel, as it comes into the stove, is then vaporized, turned into a gas by the heat. And that is what we want to have coming out of the jet, is an actual gas rather than a liquid. Okay, now we bring it up. And I'm going to show you something that's important to know. See if I can duplicate it here. In fact, I'm going to pump a little more air into my fuel bottle. Okay, this one's going to not cooperate quite as well, or actually not misbehave like I would like it to. You can probably hear a slight chugging. Very, very rapid chug. And that is caused by the fuel actually pulsing inside here as it goes to a vapor. With the flame plate in place, you don't even notice it because it's so loud and it's kind of chugging all on its own anyway and roaring, and so you don't notice it. But with the silent cap, you can actually hear it, and because there's so many little flames, you can see that little pulsing going on. The way to solve that is simply to restrict the fuel flow with this knob by turning it almost closed. And there, you see, we've eliminated the chugging. Almost. Yeah, a little bit more. There you go. It didn't affect the flame at all. It's still just as robust as it was before. Now, if I open this up again, see, we're going to get that chugging again. Does the chugging matter? Really, it doesn't matter at all. But sometimes I get folks who get one of my caps and they go, "Oh, it's chugging, your cap is defective." No. It has nothing to do with my cap. It has everything to do with the way the stove works from the factory. So to eliminate that, just go ahead and close down on the bottle valve just enough. See, it's slowing down. And as I close that down, it'll stabilize and the chugging will stop. And that's what you're looking for. Since I'm playing with my stove and having fun. That's the kind of simmer you should be able to get out of an OmniDawg cap. Even lower, actually. And it will tend to hold that, especially with white gas. Shouldn't be a problem with it holding that over time. More moderate flow. And, of course, back open all the way. So there you have it.